Hello, everyone. We are the Aleph group composed of Andrea, Alicia, and myself, Michele, and this is our proposal on how to counter disinformation on the war between Russia and Ukraine. So we start from the acknowledgement that today NATO lacks a proper, comprehensive approach that brings together the alliance, member states, and civil society organizations to make sure that proper, correct information is widely available to the public. NATO and the EU have set up agencies and have, well, not agencies, but they have set up initiatives to try and counter disinformation, but they clearly have not done enough in a number of member states. What we propose is to create a North Atlantic anti-disinformation agency that will be part of the NATO system, so to say. This would work in collaboration with NATO centers of excellence to set up guidelines and strategies to counter disinformation on the war, on the one hand, and on the other, on a more practical side, it would provide funding and help to civil society organizations in member states that would then themselves disseminate correct information about the war by collaborating with content creators. Now, this, of course, would have to be monitored, and the effect will need to be kept track of. And we anticipate that this would be done through half-yearly, semi-annual surveys aimed at the people who consume information about the war online, and trying to keep track of how public opinion evolves also as a result of these campaigns. Now, the approach would effectively be a dual track process. We're talking about setting up this agency, which would receive funding as part of NATO's public diplomacy division. Then this agency would do two things at the same time. On the one hand, there would be a call for proposals every 5 to 6 months, one in November, December, and the other one in April, May, to decide with which civil society organizations to partner for the following 5 to 6 months. These civil society organizations, after receiving support from the NAADA, would then provide the funding through sponsorship deals and whatnot to a number of content creators in their own countries. And this is what we call in this graph private institutions and actors being the implementers. So this is one track. The other track of the process would be the NAADA working as more of a coordinator for national member state institutions to help them. We're talking about cybersecurity agencies. We're talking about not just cybersecurity, but also counter disinformation agencies where they exist, to try and kind of harmonize approaches and try to provide guidelines to utilize their own resources, not necessarily NATO's, to fund projects effectively the same as the ones that the NAADA funds itself. Again, the point here is that we want NATO on its own to take a proactive approach, and we also want the member states, if they so wish, to take a proactive approach. Now, how do we assess this proposal? We believe that the proposal is feasible, effective because it builds upon existing initiatives by NATO, specifically the Protect the Future 22 initiative, which had tried to get the public in some NATO countries on the eastern flank to be more familiar with what the alliance does by partnering with content creators. This would effectively be the same. It is, however, not necessarily just that, because it's also a mix of this approach and a less traditional one, less direct NATO involvement, and NATO, or well, this NAADA working more as a sort of behind-the-scenes coordinator, trying to help national civil society organizations. By doing so, we believe, we would also bypass the substantial lack of trust that in some member states is pervasive about NATO and about international institutions more broadly. This proposal is also characterized by substantial fiscal pragmatism, because we would not be drawing upon new resources within NATO, we'd just be drawing from NATO's public diplomacy division budget. It is compliant with privacy laws in member states. After all that the all that the NAADA would do is provide funding to organizations in national, in member states, and as a result, they would then comply with privacy laws in the various member states. And finally, we believe that this is sustainable and potentially, and then there is the potential to upscale it, to transport this to other issues. This would be done with regards to the war in Ukraine, but this could be done with regards also to Russian interference in the political life in NATO member states and other issues that are the targets of disinformation. Now, as we mentioned before, this would not just be us setting up an agency and just letting it do whatever it wants. What we want to do is leverage NATO's resources by working together with existing centers within the NATO system, specifically the STRATCOM, COE, or Strategic Communications Center of Excellence, that would help the NAAD with devising strategies and guidelines to counter disinformation, and also the Cyber Defense Center of Excellence to ensure that the platforms that we use to provide the funding, to get the data about the program, to monitor the performance of the program, that those platforms are secure. So to recap again, our proposal, we believe, is feasible, efficient, builds upon existing knowledge and infrastructure within NATO, and is not a significant strain on NATO's resources. On top of this, we would be leveraging existing institutional knowledge within the alliance's institutional framework. And we believe that this is the best way to go about countering disinformation regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. Thank you very much.